What's going on, Gator Nation? Nick Delatorre, Corey Bender here with another rapid reaction. Billy Napier and the Florida Gators getting good news on the eve of Friday Night Lights. Jakeem Jackson announced his commitment to the Gators, and I'm here with the only person you need to talk to about Florida Gator recruiting, Corey Bender. What does this mean for the Gators?
Yeah, it's a kid, a four-star defensive back. He's kind of a fast riser. He's a kid that really blew up in the first half of 2022. Alabama, Kentucky, Tennessee, Auburn, Penn State. Those are just some of the additional schools that offered as well. But Florida, there wasn't much drama here. Florida kind of took the lead about probably a month ago or so. He had a private workout with Corey Raymond. He visited a few weeks before that as well. And it's just that comfort level in Gainesville. He's excited to work with Corey Raymond, Patrick Toney. Obviously, William Piegler, he's one of the coaches that recruited him as well. So comfort was very high in Gainesville. And I think with him, he's a versatile defensive back. He's a bigger cornerback, but I think he's a guy who can play nickel. You can kind of move him all around the secondary. And Osceola High School, I mean, it's a school that's known for pumping out a lot of Division I athletes. The new staff gets their foot in that school under Billy Napier. So I know with two other guys on the board, I mean, you have John Walker and Derek LeBlanc, who are, as of right now with this video, when we're filming it, are trending to different schools. But in years to come, there's no doubt Osceola is going to have some Florida caliber players. So getting Jackson on board, it's another talented kid in the secondary, a kid with versatility, and a kid I think who's nowhere even near his ceiling yet. I think he still has a lot of untapped potential.
Yeah, we have him listed at almost 6'1", 180 pounds. Just a little bit, you mentioned that getting into Osceola, Florida's done a really good job in Jacksonville, in Tampa, in Orlando. The last time we did one of these, we talked about the coaching staff kind of trying to keep those kids in state. How have you seen this coaching staff, whether it's Billy Napier or the assistants, kind of building those relationships? Because quite frankly, a lot of these guys haven't had relationships in the state of Florida. They were kind of recruiting in Louisiana while they were at UL.
Yeah, that was a priority from the get-go with Billy Napier. He said at his press conference he wants to keep the best players home, and he stayed true to his word with Treyon Webb. Obviously, Marcus Stokes is on board. I mean, you look at Florida's class, like 90% of it's all kids from the Sunshine State.
Right.
Being Florida, you're a national brand. You're always going to recruit outside of Florida as well. I mean, just given the type of players there are all across the country. But he's living up to his word. He really wants to keep a lot of these top kids home, wants to build in that tradition. And, Miami's doing the same thing. A lot of these Sunshine State schools are trying to keep these best kids home because in years past, you see Alabama's going to get their players, Clemson's going to get guys, but you need to win those battles. You need to keep a lot of these kids home to make the Sunshine State even more relevant when it comes to the big three. But I think with Billy Napier, I mean, they offered this kid too in the spring. It wasn't like they offered this kid in December, January, and really had time to build a relationship. They offered him fairly late, and it's kind of funny because the week before he was offered, you looked at his offer sheet, Alabama came calling Miami, and I was like, yeah, I mean, there's Clemani McLean, at the time, A.J. Harris. Maybe they're not going to offer just because the board's already so deep. Even Tony Mitchell at the time was still on the board before he eliminated Florida. But then it was like a week later, they saw him at the spring game. They offered him. And even after that, I thought Tennessee and Penn State were some of the schools probably in a better spot. But having Corey Raymond, I know he has family too that likes Florida. His grandmother's a huge Florida fan. His mom's side of the family is. But it was that workout with Corey Raymond about a month ago that really sealed the deal. He thought it felt like home. He knows, obviously, the potential of working underneath him. And it was just how hard the staff is recruiting him. And it kind of made that decision much easier on him. So he's been leaning towards Florida for about a month or so. No drama down the home stretch, which we've been kind of hinting at. And now he's fully on board. And we'll see. With John Walker expected to go to UCF and Derek LeBlanc leaning towards Oklahoma, maybe having Jackson on board, we're still very early in the recruiting process. I'm sure he's going to be in their ear trying to get them to change their mind, trying to come to some games in the fall. So obviously now you have someone recruiting on behalf of Florida at a talent-rich school like Osceola.
And he's only the second cornerback in the class, right? Joining Sharif Denson. There's Aaron Gates from Trinity, but he's a safety. How many cornerbacks, defensive backs, whether it's safety or corner, do you think Florida wants to get into this cycle?
What I've heard with this cycle from a few people is there's no set number as far as the overall class. If there's a talented kid they really want, they're going to have them in the class, and they'll work out the numbers later on. kind of like what you saw, with the attrition on the roster recently, when you saw some other kids on the team from the Mullen era go in the portal. I know they're really trying to rebrand this roster under Billy Napier's blueprint. So if there's a really talented kid that wants in, say Cormani McLean, obviously, you have a lot of these kids. I know Dijon Johnson, who's committed to Ohio State's another kid they really want. They're going to keep taking these kids. Obviously, just at some point you have to cap off a number, but they're not really even focused on the numbers right now. If there's a really talented kid, an elite player they really want in the class, and that kid wants in, they're going to take them and they're going to kind of figure it out as they go. But right now, it's going to be around a handful, as far as that position. And a lot of these kids are versatile too. They're kids that are categorized at safety or corner, but a lot like Aaron Gates is more of a safety, but I think Sheree Denson can kind of play nickel, obviously outside corner. He can kind of play all over the place. And I still think it's the same thing with Jackson. I feel like he can kind of play a role all over the secondary too. So the staff is really focused on versatility in the secondary, but also having these highly regarded players that, obviously the blue bloods across the country are chasing after.
And then obviously this is a great start to Friday Night Lights and to the cookout. Give me a couple more names real quick. You don't have to get too deep into it. A couple more names that guys, Gator fans should know and should be looking at this weekend.
Well, we'll start with the two guys that have commitment dates. A. Mizell, he's committing on Friday. I'll be shocked if Florida's not the pick there. He's a top 100 receiver, legacy kid. And then obviously on Saturday, there's another DB, safety, Jordan Castell. He's more of a pure safety, in my opinion. We highlight versatility. Probably play a little bit of nickel, but he's a pure safety, in my opinion. He's another one that's a heavy Florida lean. So if they do come through and land those two kids as well, you have 3 days in a row where they've landed high-quality players, all blue-chip kids. And then you have a few kids this weekend to keep an eye on as well. I mean, you have Cameron James, who, man, when Florida offered him, he was unranked. I think Cincinnati was his biggest offer at the time. Now he's the number 3 defensive lineman in the country, a top 25 player overall. So I've always kind of said that was a really good evaluation by Florida early on. They kind of kicked it off for him. Georgia's probably the other school I'm focused on for him, I think, as far as a realistic landing spot. But, you have every school in the country kind of coming after him now. And another one, too, to keep an eye on is Andy Jean, wide receiver from Miami. I submitted a prediction for him about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I think Florida is the front runner. He named Florida the leader after his official visit. Has since came out with the top group, but I think Florida still has an advantage there. And I know in a perfect world, they'd love to seal the deal while he's on campus. I think Miami's the other school for him. It's not often when a kid decommits from a school and heads back to that same school. Mm-hmm. But Miami, the way they're recruiting right now, and obviously they have Jaden Rashad in the fold. If you're a receiver, it makes them that much more intriguing. So I think it's going to be an in-state battle for him. And if they can somehow pull Andy Jean in, I mean, you're already looking at an elite wide receivers class. If they can pull Andy Jean and Aiden Mizell in with the likes of Creed Whitmore, Eugene Wilson, you have Tyree Patterson committed as well. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's already an elite wide receiver group for a class that you don't see often. So this is I think Florida's going to have a really good week, but it has a chance to be an elite week if they can kind of really come out on top for some of these kids that don't have commitment dates that are coming in town this weekend.
Well, Billy Napier called college football a talent acquisition business. That's what the Gators are trying to do this week. As always, stay tuned, stay locked into Gators Online. We have a new promo running right now. You can get 1 month for $1, 100 pennies, 4 quarters, a handful of nickels, Corey, to get all the latest news for the Florida Gators. For Corey Bender, I'm Nick Delatorre. Stay tuned, and maybe more good news this weekend.